Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome back to Finch Farm. Today I'm going to put into practice a suggestion I received in the comments, which is very much appreciated. And we're going to build a little outpost for the Minutemen. And I am really pleased with how this turned out. It's quite small and compact, but it looks really good. So as always, if you like what you see, do hit that big red button. Let's get stuck in. So we're down at the end on the overpass here. We're looking towards Jailbird Brothers Disposal, is it? No, it isn't. Scrapyard over there anyway, behind Silgus Ironworks. That one I got right. So as there's quite a lot of trouble tends to be off in that direction, forged and so on, gunners as well, I thought this would be a good place to put a kind of lookout post, a sniper's nest. So that's what we're going to work on first. So this is Aslam's junk wall pack. Junk wall pack? Yeah. And the last thing in there is this little dugout type thing, which sinks slightly into the ground, but also very conveniently will sit on top of a foundation. So I'll nudge it into place. And it's a little low, but settlers can get under it and I can walk under it, so that's the main thing. So we'll nudge it up into the air. And we'll use some junk walls, some of the vanilla ones for the most part, to wrap around the legs of it so it doesn't look quite so spindly. It's a bit more solid and permanent. So we'll use the old rug and concrete pillar, if I can ever get the thing onto the rug anyway. It turned out to be a bit of a pain. That one went okay. So we'll grab that and just slide it in on the side. Very old technique, but one I haven't used in a little while, I don't think. There we go. Simple as that. So this one was considerably more awkward. For some reason, something to do with the flat surface, I guess, it just didn't want to sit on the rug properly. Plus it's so huge, the rug kind of disappears underneath it as well. So, there we go. Yep, no joy. So we'll nudge the rug up into the air a little bit, which you can't really see from this angle, but it does work. There we go, and it should just slide right on there and hop up as it does. There we go. As I say though, the thing's so big you have to be a bit careful with where on the rug you place it, so we'll so you can't quite select it now. Nudge the thing a little bit further back, and there we go. So I'm standing on the inside here and doing this because you can line up the position a little bit better with the posts at the side of the junk wall and the legs on the scaffolding. Foundation rather. But it does leave it sticking out a bit at the front, but it makes it look a bit more organic, so I quite like it. So I'll make sure these tyres wrap around the foundation leg there. It's a positioning guide for this last, well, second to last wall. And there we go. Conveniently, the side of the dugout thing, for want of a better word, on the top, actually sits just over the edge of that junk wall, which looks quite cool. So here, unfortunately, that front section we put on with the tyres won't group select. I could have come up with a workaround in hindsight, but, you know, I didn't, so we'll move the rest of it over, get it lined up on that right-hand edge there. And there we go. It turns out I put this in slightly wonky, which I hadn't realised. But it works. Looks good. So the idea here is to get it high enough, or as high as possible, without looking like it's floating. Just doing here because it's a little too far forward. So I'll nudge it back again. That should be about right. Yeah, there we go. Obviously this one when it goes on the front is going to end up floating, but I'm just going to have to assume they've nailed it down properly and it's just being held up by the rest of the tower. It looks good, and let's face it, you're not going to be standing around that edge anyway. Had I done it this way around in the first place and left the concrete pillar right there, I'd have been able to move the whole thing at once. But we'll live and learn. So I've got that back wall to put on in just a moment. But to make sure that the stairs will work, I'm going to put a temporary set on here. So I can see where they're going to go. And then we'll group select this thing in afterwards. Rug and pillar together. This is a USO added junk wall, which is a bit smaller than the usual ones, and it's got a nice flat top on it, this one. So nothing's sticking up and getting in the way on the upper level there, which is very, very handy. There we go. I've really enjoyed working in a nice confined space here. It's provided an interesting challenge and produced quite an interesting organic little result. I'm really happy about it. Looks very cool, even if I do say so myself. So I wouldn't normally bother showing you the putting railings on because it's dead easy. But there's a couple of problems to solve here, and a happy result with this one here. So I've picked the one you'll see in just a moment. This one. No, not that one, that one. You can see it looks like it's been cut off and just tucks underneath the edge that way rather than actually clipping through like the others did, which is very cool. So that outer edge of the dugout has got a gap in it between the side wall and the back post holding the roof up. So I'm using a scrap of chain link fence just to plug the gap with. Looks okay on the inside, but on the outside I wanted it to feel a bit more solid. Plus I don't really want my Minutemen, plunging to their death down there. Oh, dead easy. Rug glitch straight in. As I say, we'll leave that one open. That's basically our little sniper's nest. So for this side, we're going to build a kind of living quarters stroke office for a couple of Minutemen that are going to be stationed here. Basically only put 2 here. Probably get 4 of them in if they were sleeping in shifts, I suppose, but 3 or 4 anyway. But as it's very, very small and confined, we'll keep it to 2. So I'm going to nudge that up, keep things looking interesting, and pushed it just far enough back that I've got room to build behind it, but they can also get around the end of the concrete wall there, on the right. We'll just slap some walls in, dead easy. I'm actually going to mix this up in a bit, because this is very, very basic and uninteresting. But the end result is pretty cool. And building a basic outline makes it a lot easier anyway, when it comes to mixing up the textures on the edges of it. Stick a door in, a couple of roofs, gotta have a Minuteman flag, it's a Minutemen Outpost. And we use a US1 to mix and match. And because using one of the other factions would be a bit weird. So you won't actually see me do it, but I'm going to line the bottom of the building to hide the fact it's floating with sandbags. So it's just a case of rug and pillar again to sink them in. This wall, on the other hand, another USO half wall, just goes in nice and easy. Didn't even need to glitch it, look at that. Those pieces are particularly forgiving. Also very good for making your own junk walls with. If you're improvising. So we see I've lifted it up a little bit too high there, so just group select the lot, sink it down a little bit so the stairs aren't floating. And it was very cooperative about this. I'm very pleased with how well it fit in the gap as well. The floor pieces rather were just exactly the right width. That's the basic bare bones of the structure. So we'll pull that back wall off and do something a little different. It's something No Respawns did a little while ago in his Castle series, which I have shamelessly pinched, but it's very cool. So that billboard is added by custom vanilla assets. It's a bit smaller than the one No Respawns used, but you can do it exactly the same. So it does want to sink through the ground. When you place it down, it will only set in about halfway in, but with some constructive use of the pillar, we can raise it up. Not everything is so cooperative, but this worked. It's a bit of a faff, but we got there. Here we go. Now we'll just group select it in and use it as a back wall. It'll stick up way too high, but it just adds to the junkyard, using whatever's available look of the thing. And it was just soft enough to go in, but just resistant enough that it wouldn't clip through too much, so it was quite convenient in that regard. So I'll go around the side because we're right at the edge here. Nudge it into place, lift it up a little bit so it's flush with the ground along the bottom. Ish. Try not to fall to my death as I check it out. Actually, didn't fall off at all this time. Very happy about that. There we go. So I messed around with metal pieces to mix this front edge up for an absurd amount of time, to be honest. But settled on the curved wall and roof here, which I don't normally use. You've seen just a sec. The other one. There we go. But I thought it would mix the textures up and be a bit different and provide a little bit more internal space as well. So that's what we went with. And I'll move on to those junk walls in a moment. So the half wall end ones, that's what they're called. These, quite convenient most of the time. They'll just go straight in, but weren't going in quite precisely enough. It's like a build order issue, I think. If I'd taken the door off and stuff, it would have gone fine, but I didn't. So we'll group select it in. Get the pillar as far away as I can so it doesn't get in the way. And move it straight in, nice and easy. As it turned out, the other one would have been a bit more cooperative with just going straight in, but it left a bit of a gap and didn't look very good. There we go. Seeing as I'm going to tuck the bed into that space, I figured they wouldn't want a howling gale blowing right through the gaps, so get it nice and snug. The ashtrays I've used because I wasn't entirely sure if the oil lamp I usually use would actually fit under the roof, so something nice and short did the job there. So, 2 more walls added by Aslam's junk wall pack, rather. That name is really a mouthful. But most of them in there are cars and things like that form huge blocky walls, which are very good, but don't do the job here. You see, what something thin to just block off the end with. So we use these to try and get it so it's not clipping through the ground in an absurd manner. And fortunately just able to put it on a bit of an angle and free up a tiny little bit more space in here, which I was quite happy about. Makes it easy to work around the stairs in a moment. Unfortunately, not all of them are the same height, which is nice and organic, but a little inconvenient for blocking up gaps like that. So, I'm going to take the same principle behind them, which is using whatever's available, and just group select some chain link fence in there, as you can see, just to increase the height of it a bit. Just mix and match those textures a bit. Just position this so it looks like it's attached to the other piece, so the thing looks like one piece of ruined fence they've just bolted onto the thing. And it should look quite nice, or quite scrappy, depending on how you want to look at it. There we go. It's now a little bit higher and we'll fill the gap a bit more easily. I do quite like how obviously these junk walls here are obviously inspired by what other people have been doing. Aslam's just constructed them out of whatever. At the same time, seeing Aslam building these has made me think, I could take the same principle again and expand on it again, which is cool. It's one of the interesting things about the Fallout building community. It's building on each other's ideas. I do enjoy it very much. So this is going to become an armory. Unfortunately, the end result here is more like a couple of porter cabins, which is not good. And there was no way I was going to be able to put shelves and stuff in there. It was just a bit unusable like this, so I had to go with something a little more orthodox. But I'm pretty happy with the result. It looks good. So we'll sack this whole idea off in a minute. You can see it's, even though it will go in, it's obviously clipping right through the concrete barrier there, which looks awful. So I built a tube. If I use the right wall, which that isn't. There we are. Bang, bang. 4 pieces snapped together nice and easy. Not the most elegant build in the world, not the most interesting, but it fits in the gap and does the job quite nicely. Although it was a pain to put things on the wall. So build it out here, group select, move the whole thing in. It goes in the gap, and there's only a tiny little bit of clipping on it, which you can hide quite easily anyway. So I was pretty pleased with that. made use of the space quite well. Nudge as far over as it'll go. There we go. Pillar out of the way. There we go. Tiny bit of clipping, but nothing major. So I could use some custom vanilla asset wire fence posts here, because there's a couple of double height ones in there, to provide supports for this little platform on the edge here. I like these things much more than using the metal ones added by the warehouse tab or the wooden ones in the barn tab. So I just don't like the textures very much, to be honest. And the metal ones are a bit too obviously clipping through the ground as well, so... This one was a bit of a pain, so it was a case of get it as close as I can and make do. Felt like I spent ages trying to minutely adjust these. You have to look at the bottom, by the way, they'll just go straight red. Yeah, it felt like I spent ages on these, but it turned out it was actually only about 30 seconds or so. Interesting insight into psychology of moving tiny little things like that. But yeah, I gave up about there, but it looks okay anyway. So we're going to seal off these gaps using the same sort of improvised junk wall principle. And the idea I'm working on here is that this space will be a kind of walled off enclosed courtyard type affair. Which is somewhere between a corridor and a courtyard anyway. And I think it turns out pretty well. Very scrappy, very cramped, but it really looks good I think, so I like it a lot. So just going to again mix and match, use random bits and pieces just to plug the gaps with. I almost never used picket fences, so I thought I'd use one for a change. This one very conveniently leans over just far enough to look like it's nailed on both sides. Look at that. Isn't that great? Another half-shack wall. Almost fills the gap, but add a wire fence post on the end, and it looks neat, tidy, and does the job. Neat and scrappy. So, same thing again here. Lift that up until it hits the upper level. So at that point it won't clip through. There we go. And we'll use a standard shack railing, balcony railing. And just nudge that in to plug the bottom up with. There we go. This is another section that took far too long when they're fiddling around with it. I've tried loads of different pieces of chain link fence and all sorts of different techniques to try and get it in. Why it took me so long to just do this, I don't know, but there we go. So the idea is, get it sitting on top of that concrete barrier, but just this side of the metal railing there. As I say, the concrete pillar won't sit close enough on its own, so use the conduit for a bit of reach. And there we go. Flip around the other side, we're on the inside now, and just plug up the end a little bit using the same principle. Get it to sit just over it, I think. Preferably not clipping through, though it may end up doing that. No, I think we're okay. And that's basically the main structure of the build. So we'll move on to the tour. So, a little scaffolding for the radio recruitment beacon up the front there. Does it seem like the best place to put it? I've done a fair bit of decoration at this stage, but nothing too earth-shattering or that you haven't seen in the last couple of videos anyway, so you can check those out if you want to see how I've done something. So it's switched off just at the moment. You can just about get underneath that tent there, which I wasn't sure you'd be able to, but it really needed to be on there somewhere. So I've experienced a strange phenomenon today. There you go, see the sandbags there. For some reason, I can't operate doors after about 5 minutes after I've put them in place. I can walk straight through them, like a ghost, but I can't actually operate them anymore. So that door is now stuck in the open position, as is the armoury door you'll see in a minute. So the door on the motel is stuck in the closed position. I can walk right through it, can't actually open or close it. I have absolutely no idea why, it's very strange. Anyway, little workspace area in the courtyard out here. I've got a settler assigned to that weapons workstation. It's actually a scavenging station in disguise. A little seating area for them to eat, which is another reason why I wanted the tent over the top. Armoury. I've got them equipped with Gauss rifles because I've got a very long range shot to make from up there, so it seemed appropriate. A few bits and pieces. Looks nice and secure, at least it would if I could close the door. armor workstation. Just tucked under the stairs here. Can actually get in there to use it. Camera takes a second to figure out what's going on, but it works. Up to our little sniper's nest. Decent view over all the more dangerous areas out that way. And over there the junkyard and Sorgus Ironworks. I still can't remember what it's called. As soon as I'm done recording, I've no doubt I'll remember. There we go. As you can see, extermination is everybody's job. That is basically our little Minutemen Outpost. So, if you'd like to keep up to date with what's happening on the channel, you can find me on Twitter and Facebook /Darth Xion Games. And I will be speaking to you all very, very soon. Oh yeah, I had to change the lighting in here as well, by the way. Okay. Thought those would do the job a little too dim. Thank you very much for watching.